At graduation, the CEO's daughter discovered a hidden truth about the janitor's inspiring journey. Emily stood backstage, her heart thudding against her ribcage. The gym, packed with a sea of black caps and gowns, buzzed with excitement. As the CEO's daughter, she was the embodiment of privilege, handcrafted for success. But all of that felt suffocating in moments like this. Just beyond the curtain was Ralph, the janitor, quietly shifting a mop from one hand to the other, and each time she passed him in the halls, it was just a nod and a smile. A routine exchange, barely noticed. But there was this unshakable pull inside of her. It stemmed from those quiet afternoons she spent in the library, seeking refuge from her father's relentless ambitions. That hidden journal she found, dusty and overlooked, had totally transformed her view of the world. The ink-stained pages told her of Ralph's life filled with dreams too dim to grasp, responsibilities that weighed him down like stones, and a fierce commitment to helping local kids. That journal ripped open her carefully constructed world, showing her the truth about who she was. The crowd shifted, and her name echoed. Emily Johnson. She stepped into the light, pops of flashy cameras buzzing around her. The applause thundered one moment, then faded into a significant hush as her classmates and their families leaned in. Before she could even begin, the voice of the principal neatly dripped the honors of their illustrious mayor and shining college apps her peers were expected to glide into futures that were already paved for them. A single breath stole her focus for a heartbeat. She could feel her father's steely gaze pinning her, like a hawk sizing up its prey. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each word she rehearsed in her mind, she glanced at Ralph, now standing at the edge of the stage, only a janitor to most, but a hero in her narrative. She felt the current of emotions pulling at her, the pressure to speak from the safe script her father had prepared hung in the air. But Ralph had given her a glimpse of a different state of being, a glimpse of real integrity. He had saved her father's life long before there was money and power at play. That revelation was like a lightning bolt, cutting through the suffocating expectations of wealth and status. As her classmates cheered, Emily's voice shook with fierce conviction. Today, I don't want to just celebrate honor rolls or perfect college applications, she said, her heart racing, but instead recognize the quiet strength of those whose stories we overlook. The weight of expectation hung thick in the room, each gaze piercing her like daggers. Would she risk everything? The murmurs swelled. The promise of privilege and security whispered in her ear. Yet Ralph's quiet dignity gave her strength. Standing at that moment, poised between two worlds, Emily was ready to find her voice, despite the storm brewing behind her father's narrowed eyes. What would she choose, the safety of wealth or the courage to speak truth? Only one thing was sure. She was about to challenge everything she had ever known. The room was silent, heavy with anticipation. Every face seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the words that could change lives. Emily felt the spotlight warm her skin, but its glow didn't quell the rising fear in her chest. She could almost hear her father's sharp intake of breath, steeling himself for a confrontation he sensed brewing. But she had made up her mind. My classmates, she began, her voice steadying. We stand on the brink of our futures, each of us with dreams and paths laid out for us. But what about those whose roads remain hidden from view? She gestured to Ralph, who stood quietly, mop in hand, almost a ghost against the backdrop of proud parents and eager seniors. Ralph has worked in these halls for years. He has been here when we were too absorbed in our own lives to notice. He is a reminder that every person has a story, stories filled with sacrifice, grit, and courage. A ripple of whispers surged through the crowd. Surprised glances exchanged. Some faces scowled in disbelief. Her father shifted, his expression a mix of anger and confusion. Emily pressed on, fueled by an urgency she and T expected. While we've been handed everything on a silver platter, Ralph has fought his battles alone. He saved my father's life, Yet how often do we overlook him? Today, I stand before you to bring his story into the light. Because every story matters. For a fleeting moment, time stood still. Then a low murmur enveloped the gym, shifting into a wave of emotion. A few here and there began to nod, slowly understanding what she was doing. The message she was sending wasn't just about Ralph. It was about humanity, connection, and the masks they all wore. Emily locked eyes with Ralph, and in that brief instant, she saw gratitude reflected back, a spark of hope that her words were lighting a new path. She could feel her heart swell as an unexpected warmth spread through the audience. It was no longer just her voice. It was a chorus of hidden truths reclaiming their space in the world. We are all part of the community, she continued, her voice gaining strength. Let us not just dream of a better future. Let us create one together. One where everyone is valued, where every story is heard. The clapping started tentatively, building momentum as more and more people joined in. Emily blinked back tears, exhilarated by the realization of what she had done. In this moment, she had unearthed a voice not just for herself, but for those like Ralph who lived in the shadows. Yet, in the midst of this whirlwind of emotions, she sensed the dark cloud hovering near her father rising from the audience, his face stormy. With every ounce of fatherly authority, he commanded silence in the most authoritative way. A chill descended. Enough, Emily, he boomed, silencing the room. This is not the time nor the place for your naive experiment. We have plans, expectations that you are shattering. You can't just speak for others and think there are no consequences. Her heart raced, but she felt a flicker of defiance ignite within her. With Ralph at her back, she was no longer just his savior. He had become her strength. What if this is exactly how change begins? She countered, voice unwavering. Who will ever know their worth if we don't speak? As the tension escalated, the gym seemed to hold its breath again. Emily was aware of the path she was on, the one lined with potential fallout from her father, the weight of his disappointment looming. But in that moment, surrounded by clapping hands and curious stares, she felt liberated. Could she really redefine her life, her family legacy, and what it meant to be the CEO's daughter? What awaited her in the aftermath of this statement? Would the revelation of Ralph's truth trigger not only shock, but a wave of transformation they could all embrace? An unexpected journey stood on the brink of unfolding. The tension in the gym was almost tangible, an electric current igniting every nerve. Emily could feel the heat rising in her cheeks as whispers cascaded around her like waves. Some students were nodding, their faces alight with understanding and connection, while others cast daggers with their eyes, clinging to the old ways of thinking. She turned back to Ralph, whose eyes glistened with a mixture of pride and disbelief. They were on the precipice of something monumental, but as she searched the room, her gaze collided with her father's. His disappointment hit her like a cold gust of wind on a sweltering day. She could see the battle raging within him, the need to protect his legacy clashing with a father's instinct to be proud of his daughter. Yet pride felt worlds away in that moment. Emily, you're not just naive, he interjected, his voice now low but shaking with intensity. You're risking everything we've built. You think this is about one person? You're creating a divide. Sometimes, dividing lines are exactly what we need to break through, Dad. She shot back, desperation creeping into her words. Ralph's story is not just his. It's a reflection of our indifference. The gym rang with her voice, echoing off the walls. Her heart pounded in her chest, the stakes feeling higher than ever. There was a chance that those words could alter the perception of everyone present, and that realization both thrilled and terrified her. Her classmates were shifting, eyes darting between Emily and her father. She could feel the room pulsing with energy, a collective heartbeat that would decide their futures together. Ralph, will you come up here? Emily beckoned impulsively. She was not ready to let this moment slip away. With hesitant steps, Ralph moved forward, the mop forgotten by the wall. As he reached Emily's side, the murmurs in the gym grew louder. She could feel the weight of every look, every whisper. Ralph is just as much a part of this school as any of us, Emily declared, her voice rising to cut through the noise. He deserves recognition, not as the man who cleans up after us, but as someone who has contributed infinitely to our lives. Ralph swallowed hard, shifting his gaze from the crowd to the floor, as if the spotlight was too bright for him. Emily noticed a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes, battling against the pride of acknowledgement. "Mr. Whitaker," she continued, invoking the principal's name, "we should honor Ralph. Let us have a scholarship in his name, a way to keep the torch of community spirit alive for future students who follow in his footsteps." A loud gasp reverberated through the hall as whispers turned into conversations. Emily's heart raced, praying for a glimmer of support. Before the principal could respond, her father stepped forward, his face taut with anger but conflict brewing in his eyes. "Emily, don't you dare presume to dictate how we honor or recognize a member of our community. We have traditions." The room suddenly felt smaller. Emily moved to meet his gaze, her heart full of resolve. Traditions that exclude or traditions that unite. We can choose to change it. There was a collective hush as everyone processed her words, a moment suspended in time. Then, slowly, one student clapped, then another, until a ripple of applause surged through the gym. Ralph looked stunned, his cheeks flushed. He wasn't just a shadow anymore. He was stepping into the light, a beacon of hope. In that defining moment, Emily realized that she hadn't just spoken on behalf of others. She had ignited a fire within herself. But as the applause crescendoed and her father's face twisted with rage and confusion, she questioned what the next steps would be. What would this mean for her relationship with him? And what if the newfound awareness sparked even more courageous changes in the other students? Would they follow her lead and reshape the very fabric of their community? As Ralph's smile broke through the storm of uncertainty, Emily felt ready to confront whatever lay ahead. The journey was only just beginning. Ralph stood there, the raucous applause volleying back and forth like a wave. Emily could see how each clap struck him like a soft nudge, awakening a confidence buried deep. For the first time, he was not just the janitor, but a symbol of change. Thank you all," Ralph finally managed to say, his voice shaky but strong, his chest lifting slightly with each word. Emily felt a cheer swell inside of her. She was watching a part of his story unfold, one that was just beginning to be written. As the claps diminished, a rustle of excitement mingled with unease filled the room. Emily's father remained rigid, his fists clenched at his sides. She felt the weight of his disappointment like a heavy cloak draped over her shoulders. The air seemed to thicken, and with it, a new determination fueled her. "Ralph," she began, her voice aiming steady, "your journey is incredibly valuable. You've shown us resilience, hard work, and spirit. We need that spirit to thrive." Behind her, the murmurs shifted from fear to curiosity, the kind of curiosity that twists itself into deeper connections. The shaking in Ralph's hands softened as he looked back at Emily, and she could see a shift in him. As if a dam had burst, other students began to voice their thoughts. "Yes, right. We've taken him for granted," one student exclaimed, followed by another. "Let us encourage everyone to share their stories." Emily felt a rush of adrenaline. It was as if her words were stirring something profound in her classmates. This wasn't just Ralph's moment. It was theirs. For far too long, they had sat quietly, passive observers in a play where they could have been stars. Suddenly, a girl named Sarah, known for her sparkling attitude, yet often overlooked among the chatter of popular students, raised her hand. "What if we start a program where everyone shares their stories? Everyone has something to teach us." "Great idea, Sarah." Emily beamed, searching the room for Ralph's gaze, hoping he felt this newfound dynamic. "We can have regular meetings. It can be a safe space. No gossip, just real conversations." With each suggestion, the atmosphere thickened with excitement and the prospect of change. Emily could sense her father's tension intensifying. She quickly glanced at him, catching the flicker of pride hidden behind layers of disapproval. "Can we name it after Ralph?" Another voice piped up, and the crowd erupted in agreement. "The Ralph Initiative," they shouted, and just like that, Ralph wasn't just a janitor anymore. He was a leader in this burgeoning movement. Ralph's eyes widened, astonishment blooming on his face. He was no longer in the shadows. Emily recognized that look, the miraculous swell of self-worth that many strive for but seldom find. But among these cheers, Emily noticed a change in her father too. Behind the muscles of anger, doubt cracked his tough exterior. She desperately wished to reach him, Her heart fought against his harsh stance. Sometimes love sits nestled in the toughest conversations. "Dad," she called out, drawing attention back toward him, "I understand what you're afraid of. But this is a chance to build something better, something more inclusive. We all need to be a part of it." He opened his mouth to respond, but hesitated. The quiet in the gym was a treasure in that moment. It felt like everyone held their breath, waiting for the outcome of this standoff. "Emily, you are risking everything," he finally said, the weariness tracing his voice. She saw him searching for the right words, for the balance between his world and hers. "Some risks are worth taking, Dad," she replied softly, her chest tightening with the weight of what was unraveling. Just then, the fire alarm shrieked to life, cutting through the air like a hot knife. Confusion erupted in the gym as students started moving, glancing around in bewilderment. Emily's heart raced. Just when it felt like they were on the brink of transformation, the unexpected chaos threatened to pull them back. "Stay calm. Everyone outside," Mr. Whitaker shouted, waving his hands to direct the students. Emily felt a tug of adrenaline surge through her. Ralph's expression mirrored her own curiosity, excitement, and a hint of fear. As the students shuffled toward the exits, she took a deep breath and lunged toward Ralph, her heart thumping hard. "We're not done yet. Not now," Emily shouted above the chaos, her determination unyielding. "This is just the beginning." And just like that, in the haze of uncertainty, a thought struck her like a lightning bolt. What if the fire wasn't just a disruption? What if it was a sign and awakening for them all? As the crowd spilled out into the chilly air, Emily's heart thrummed with anticipation. The brightest sparks often emerge from the hottest flames. Was this moment merely a coincidence, or something more significant waiting to unfold? As the sky turned to dusk, Emily felt the spark within her grow, alone with a thrilling question. What could they ignite next? Emily stepped outside, the sharp chill of the evening air piercing through the excitement that had been bubbling inside her. The line of students spilled out into the parking lot, confusion painted on their faces. She stood there, her heart pounding not just from the rush of the moment, but from the weight of all that had happened. Around her, she could see Ralph still processing the whirlwind of attention, his figure caught in the soft glow of the setting sun. "Ralph," she called, weaving through the crowd to reach him. "You were amazing up there." He turned to her, the wonder in his eyes still shimmering. "I can't believe all that just happened." It felt powerful. His voice shook slightly, not from fear this time, but from the realization of stepping into the light from the dark shadows he had lived in for so long. "Powerful is just the beginning," Emily exclaimed, grinning wide. "You were standing up there as a testimony that anyone can inspire change. That is huge." Just as she spoke, she caught a glimpse of her father coming out of the gym, crossing his arms like a barricade against the world. The proud expression she had glimpsed in him earlier was hidden once more beneath his disapproving exterior. "Emily," he called, his voice cutting through the buzz of student chatter, and her heart sank. "Get over here." The urgency in his tone made her stomach twist. She shot an apologetic look at Ralph and hurried over, forcing herself to keep her head high. "Are you out of your mind? You can't just push everything aside like this," he snapped, his eyes fiercely locking onto hers. "What if this whole initiative flops? What if it brings unwanted attention on our family?" She swallowed hard against the knot rising in her throat. "Aren't you the one who always said to stand up for what is right? You know how much this means to Ralph and us. It's about connection and understanding." "Connection? You mean risking your reputation for a janitor?" He spat, the unwillingness to accept Ralph's worth drawing lines in the sand. "His worth isn't defined by his job, Dad," she countered, her voice rising. "His life is more valuable than titles. Can't you see that?" For a moment, her father's eyes flickered with something doubt, perhaps. She pressed on, hoping to reach him through the wall of resistance. "Think of all the kids in our school. They need to hear these stories, to learn empathy and strength. This could change everything." "Change isn't always good, Emily," he replied, voice heavy with a lifetime of rules and traditions meant to keep people in their boxes. Suddenly, the fire alarm served as a harsh reminder of their current chaos. The students, still scattered, were now forming groups, exchanging ideas about the initiative that might just be part of their future. Emily could feel the momentum shifting, could see minds opening up with every passing minute. We can't be afraid of who we are or where we come from, she urged, her passion igniting something in her father's eyes. This is an opportunity to elevate everyone, not just us. If you can't support me now, Dad, how will we ever move forward? His silence filled the space between them, and with each beat of her heart, Emily felt hope and fear battling for control. It was beyond personal now. It was about revolutionizing everything they had known. As the realization dawned on her father, she wasn't sure if it would draw him closer or push him further away. The chill in the air felt sharp, as if the universe held its breath, waiting for their next move. Let us go, Emily, he finally said, a hint of defeat mingling with uncertainty. I'll think about what you said. With a mixture of hope and dread, she nodded, but her gaze drifted back to Ralph. Somehow, he seemed to be gathering strength from the murmurs of the crowd, a quiet leader rising in the midst of the storm. As they made their way back toward the gym, the momentum inside her burned brighter. The fire alarm had sounded for a reason, she was sure of it now. But what would it take for her father to see that? As they walked, she couldn't help but wonder if this challenge brought them to a tipping point. Would he open his heart, or would the walls he built keep them apart forever? Emily's heart raced as she and her father walked back toward the gym. The echoes of the fire alarm had faded, but the tension between them crackled with unspoken words. She could feel the adrenaline still pulsing in her veins while her father's silence felt like a heavy weight pressing down on her. Around them, students began to fan out. Laughter bubbled up as groups formed around Ralph, who stood at the center, relishing the newfound spotlight. Two girls approached him, their eyes sparkling with admiration. Emily couldn't help but smile as he spoke animatedly, his hands gesturing passionately, like a performer on the stage he had just claimed. Look at him, Emily thought, warmth flooding through her as she turned to her father. This is about so much more than just Ralph. It's about the chance to uplift everyone. But instead of pride, her father's gaze remained fixed ahead, looking through Ralph rather than at him. You think this is going to change anything? That a few heartfelt speeches will make a difference? She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Dad, it starts here. You can't see that? He turned to face her, his features hardening. What I see is a path to trouble. You're opening doors to conversations people might not want to have. What if it backfires? The knot in Emily's chest tightened. Sometimes you have to take risks, Dad. Sometimes, real change comes from stepping into the unknown. His eyes softened for the first time, but then they hardened again. You're young, Emily. You want to save the world, but you're not living in the real world. I know it's not simple, she replied urgently. But it can start right here, right now. If we just give people a chance to connect. A sudden shout broke through, drawing Emily's attention back to Ralph. He had just invited anyone who felt inspired to share their own stories. The crowd exploded with excitement. See, Emily urged, grasping at the energy building around them. These kids are listening. They're ready. For a split second, her father glanced back, his expression a mix of caution and curiosity as he surveyed the throng forming around Ralph. Was there a flicker of understanding in those piercing eyes? Or was it just an illusion? She took a breath, willing him to see the truth of the moment. Dad, this could ignite something in this school. It could break barriers. He hesitated. For a moment, Emily thought he might join her. But then the wall rose again. Careful with your words, he warned. You don't know what you're asking for. As if punctuating their tension, Ralph's voice rang out again, calling for stories of struggle, of triumph. The energy swelled, a tide of possibility cascading over the crowd. Students stepped forward, emboldened, their voices spilling forth like new springs of life. Emily's pulse quickened, her heart soaring. She looked back at her father, searching his face for any sign of acceptance. Don't you see, Dad? This isn't just Ralph's moment, it's ours. But he was already stepping away, his mouth firm and resolute. I can't condone this, Emily. This is too risky. Panic gripped her, intertwining with the hope she had felt moments before. What does that mean? It means I can't protect you if you step into this, he said, the finality in his voice striking her like a blow. Tears threatened to spill from her eyes, but she blinked them back, heart clenching tight. Desperation rising, she stepped closer, trying to bridge the chasm between them. You can't protect me from the truth, Dad. These kids need to know their more than their title or their past. His face hardened again, shadows flickering in his eyes. And what will you do when they turn on you, huh? What then? Before she could reply, he turned and walked away, leaving her standing alone, wrestling with a swell of emotion: betrayal, fear, confusion. Ralph's laughter and the buzz of voices around her felt distant now, drowned out by her father's retreating figure. With Ralph in the spotlight, stirring hope in the crowd, she had never felt more lost. Would her father ever see what she saw? Would he ever join her in this fight? As she watched the stories unfolding, a question flickered in her mind. Was she brave enough to step into that unknown alone? What would it cost her if she did? The air around her was thick with possibility, both exciting and terrifying. And as the voices grew louder with every heartfelt story shared, Emily faced a choice that could redefine everything. What would she decide to risk next? Emily stood frozen, caught between the vibrant energy of the crowd and the heavy loss she felt from her father's departure. She glanced back at Ralph, who was animatedly sharing a story that sparked laughter and tears alike. His charisma lit the room, igniting a hope that seemed to stretch beyond the gym walls. But something inside her unraveled further. The cheers around her faded into a dull roar as doubt crept in. What if she failed? What if this moment of courage turned into a moment of disgrace? Her heart raced, a constant reminder of the risk she was contemplating. Just breathe, she whispered to herself as she stepped closer to the cluster of students surrounding Ralph. They were sharing, connecting. She could feel a magnetic pull towards that shared vulnerability. It was everything she wished for, everything she believed in. Emily. A voice cut through her spiraling thoughts. It was Hannah, her friend, racing toward her, eyes wide with excitement. Did you hear what Ralph said? He wants to create a weekly meetup, like a safe space for people to share their stories. This could really be something special. That's amazing. Emily forced a smile, but her mind was still lingering on her father's cautionary words. Was it foolish to think something this organic could thrive? Hannah's enthusiasm was infectious, but Emily's heart still felt heavy. I want to be part of this, Hannah continued, her eyes sparkling with determination. We should help him organize it. You and I can create flyers and get the word out. What do you think? Could she really do this? The tug of war in her mind raged on. I don't know, Hannah. What if it doesn't work? What if it all blows up in our faces? Hannah stepped closer, her voice steady. Emily, you're the one who inspired Ralph to even start this. You can't back down now. Think of all the kids who feel alone, who need this just as much as we do. The fire of conviction sparked anew within Emily. She looked back at Ralph, who was beaming, a beacon of hope. It was infectious. He was creating an opportunity for real connection, one that went beyond the surface level. Okay, let us do it, Emily finally said, the thrill surging through her veins. Let us help him make this happen. As they outlined their plan, she felt the fear begin to dissolve, replaced by purpose. Every time someone stepped up to share their own story, the weight of her father's skepticism lifted little by little. This was the moment she had longed for. After several incredible stories, Ralph called out again, announcing a break for snacks. The students scattered, excited to discuss what they had just heard. Emily took a moment, breathing in the whirlwind around her as she searched for her father in the hall. But he was nowhere to be seen. She felt a pang of loneliness cutting through the joy. She had stepped away from their familiar ground, and in doing so, had left a piece of herself along with him. Everything okay? Ralph's voice brought her back to the moment. Yeah, just thinking, she replied. You know, we couldn't have done this without you. You stirred something in people. They need you. His smile warmed her. As days turned into weeks, the meetups flourished, sparking a movement within the school. Sharing became a lifeline. Emily reveled in the connections that emerged, feeling every word and every story ripple through the crowd like a wave. But beneath that exhilaration lay unanswered questions. After each session, Emily found herself looking for her father, hoping to share the change they were all creating, yet he remained absent. The ache in her chest grew with every passing day. Then, one afternoon, Ralph approached her with a serious expression. Emily, there's something we need to talk about. A new opportunity has come up, and it could affect the future of these meetups. Her heart raced. What do you mean? It's about involving more people from the district, and some people might not be in favor of what we're doing here. I need to know you're ready to support this. Emily's stomach nodded. What were the consequences of their growth? Could those conversations create rifts instead of bridges? She thought of her father's warning, of the risks that lay ahead. The reality settled heavy in the air. The very thing that had brought her hope was now tied to anxiety. Yet, she had jumped into the pool. There was no turning back now. "Let us do it," she said, her voice steady despite the uncertainty. "Let us jump in together." As Ralph nodded, her heart braced for the challenge ahead. But as she prepared for the next step, a chilling realization washed over her. The opposition might be closer than she thought, and the next wave could crash harder than ever. Emily's breath caught in her throat as she absorbed Ralph's words. The weight of consequences loomed larger than ever, shadowing the excitement she had felt just moments ago. This was what they had wanted, a chance to expand their message, to let more voices join in. But now, the prospect seemed tinged with fear. "Do you think we're ready?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ralph rubbed the back of his neck, a gesture Emily recognized as his way of processing pressure. "I believe we are. But it won't be easy. There will be people who won't understand or accept our mission. Some will think we're just kids playing at something important." The possibility of negativity struck Emily deep. She had seen it before, the echo of harsh criticisms that often came with diving into something as open and raw as sharing personal stories. Was she ready to face that? Her thoughts drifted back to her father's doubts, his warnings echoing in her mind like the distant kick of a drum. Yet right in front of her, laughter and enthusiasm filled the gym, a testament to what they were building. Moments of connection far outweighed the fear, didn't they? The voices of her peers had opened something in her, a door to a community she hadn't fully acknowledged until now. She clung to that thought tightly. "Let us plan a meeting," Emily said, a newfound determination threading through her tone. "We need to establish our purpose clearly before we invite anyone new. We can't let people think we're just a bunch of kids. We have to show them how important this is." Ralph grinned, the warmth of his approval washing over her. "That's the spirit. Let us call a gathering and get the team together." As the gym buzzed with energy surrounding them, Emily felt a flicker of hope. She turned to look at the other kids, sharing their stories, the laughter mingling with tears. They were all finding a home here, weren't they? It didn't matter if the road ahead became rocky. They had built this community together, and they were stronger for it. Days rolled by, and soon, the day of the meeting arrived. Emily found herself standing at the front of the gym, heart racing, palms sweaty. She could see the familiar faces of her friends, and plenty of new ones too. There were also some others lingering near the back, students who seemed skeptical. A tight knot formed in her stomach. Were these the kids that Ralph warned her about? "Welcome, everyone," she started, trying to steady her voice. "Thank you for being here today." As she spoke, she saw the glimmer of interest sparking in their eyes. She shared stories, passed on energy, and slowly, she began to feel the weight lift off her shoulders. She described the vision, the mission, the purpose behind the meetups. The room started to shift, energy crackling in the air as students began to share their own moments of vulnerability. But then, a voice sliced through the camaraderie. "This is ridiculous," a boy shouted from the back. "Why are we listening to a bunch of kids talk about their feelings? It's pointless." The laughter in the room dimmed, replaced by an uneasy silence. Emily's heart pounded loudly in her ears. She felt herself shrink from the challenge laid bare before her. For a brief moment, doubt crept back, and could she really stand up to this? But she quickly remembered Ralph's faith in her, the support of her friends who filled the room with their hope. Taking a deep breath, she forged ahead, her voice stronger than before. "Everyone has a story that deserves to be heard. Maybe it feels pointless to some, but we're here to create a space where those stories can be shared without fear. Our truths can help us connect, and isn't that what we all need?" As the murmurs continued, she locked eyes with another girl near the front, someone who had been quiet until now. Emily saw a flicker of understanding in her expression. But the boy persisted, "Just because we talk doesn't mean anything's going to change." The tension tightened, palpable in the air, and Emily realized this was a turning point not just for the meetups, but for her own journey too. The uncertainty of her father's absence, the fear of failure, all coalescing into a single moment. "Maybe you're right," she replied, her voice holding firm despite her racing heart. "But change starts with speaking out, with showing up." You may not believe it yet, but every voice matters. Your voice matters. I want to hear it. As Emily finished, silence hung in the air, the crowd holding its collective breath, waiting for the boy's response. Would he dismiss her again? Or could this be a moment where understanding emerged? And beneath that montaged silence, Emily sensed something shifting. An opportunity for connection lay just ahead. But whether forgiveness or resentment would bloom from this moment remained a question that only the next step could answer. The boy crossed his arms, his expression unreadable. The entire room felt expectant, the air thick with tension. Emily could feel the weight of every gaze on her, and her heart raced wildly in her chest. She had opened her soul, and now, it was time for the boy's reaction to decide the fate of this moment. "I'm not trying to be rude," he said slowly, his voice softer now, but still defiant. "It just feels like talking about feelings isn't enough. We need something real." He glanced around, searching the faces for support, maybe even an agreement. Emily took a step forward, emboldened by the challenge. "What do you think is real, then? Concrete actions or the words we speak? Stories are how we connect, how we understand one another and ourselves. Often, the first step to change is gathering courage to speak up. What if sharing our stories is exactly what leads to actions later? What if that is how we find what we want to fight for?" A beat passed, and she could see that her words were starting to chip away at the boy's skepticism. It wasn't complete acceptance, but it was something. The faces in the room were slowly shifting from uncertainty to curiosity, and she felt that flicker of hope reignite within her. "I don't know," he replied, his walls starting to crack. "It just seems childish." Childish. A voice piped up from the front. It was the girl Emily had connected with earlier. "I don't think it's childish at all. I mean, being vulnerable takes strength. We're in a world where we're told to be tough and never show weakness. Sharing how we feel is the brave thing to do." There was a spark in her eyes, a recognition of the very thing Emily had wanted to achieve, a moment of connection. Emily encouraged this back and forth. The atmosphere was suddenly bursting with energy. Students whispered to each other, some nodding, others leaning forward. She could feel the momentum shifting in her favor. "Maybe we can do both?" Another voice chimed in from the side. "Tell our stories and think of ways to take action." It was a girl who had rarely spoken at any of the meetups, her quiet reflections often overshadowed. But now, she was there standing strong. "Yes, that's it," Emily said, her spirits lifting. "We can start by being open and then see what actions come from that openness. Maybe it sparks solutions to issues we care about." A ripple of agreement spread through the room, the skeptical boy now frowning in thought. The fear that had clung to Emily melted a little more as she watched doubt envelop his features, only to be replaced with contemplation. He wasn't fully convinced yet, but she could sense he was reevaluating his stance. And just then, Ralph squeezed Emily's shoulder, a gesture of solidarity that grounded her amidst the whirlwind they were creating. "Let us hear from more voices," he encouraged, his enthusiasm infectious. "Not just Emily's and not just the loudest one. We all have something to contribute here." As many students began to share, stories tumbled free, funny memories, heartfelt experiences, even moments of pain. The atmosphere grew electric, the earlier skepticism dissolving into relatability and laughter. The boy listened, leaning towards the front, intrigued. Slowly, he uncrossed his arms, tension slipping away. Emily thought back to her initial fears. Hadn't every story spoken brought them one step closer to understanding? It felt monumental, like they were building something tangible amidst the emotions swirling around. She glanced at Ralph, who smiled back, both exhilarated and amazed at the transformation unfolding before them. But then, the boy stood up, his expression serious again, interrupting the flow. "What happens next if we share? If we are honest?" An unexpected chill rushed through Emily. What would happen? Could they really handle the truth? This was the missing piece of her plan, what she hadn't fully dealt with yet. Despite the warmth of the community surrounding her, the uncertainty loomed large. With vulnerability came strength, but it also brought risk. Would they be ready to face whatever truths emerged? And as Emily met the boy's determined gaze, she felt her heartbeat quicken. There would be no turning back now. The next word she spoke could change everything. The question now was, would they dive deeper or retreat? Emily stood firm, feeling the weight of the moment drape over her like a second skin. The energy in the room tinged with anticipation, whispering promises of transformation that hung in the air. Ralph's presence gave her strength, urging her to lean into the vulnerability that had become the backbone of their initiative. As she opened her mouth, the gravity of his question steered her thoughts. What happens next if we share? She took a deep breath, committing her heart to each word as she faced the crowd. We embrace the truth. We allow ourselves to be seen. And with that visibility, we create a bond, a community stronger than any one of us could build alone. The murmurs grew softer as her classmates leaned in, absorbing her words, the initial skepticism dissipating like fog in sunlight. Emily pressed on. Yes, being open can be scary. But through our stories, we forge connections that spark understanding. Maybe what we uncover will help us tackle challenges we didn't even know existed. What we create together can be powerful. She locked eyes with the boy who had questioned her, determination radiating from him. Imagine a place where everyone's voice reverberates, where we can work out solutions together. That's the first step toward real change. The room buzzed with newfound energy, students sharing glances of encouragement, drawing strength from one another. Emily felt hope swell within her. The collection of voices didn't have to just inform, they could ignite action. Can we turn our stories into something bigger? The quiet girl from before asked, her hand raised timidly. Like a project that gives back to our community, something that shows what we gathered from each other? Yes. Ralph beamed, his eyes shining as he surged forward. We can create anything we want. Whether it's a fundraising event, a community service project, or even awareness campaigns, let this be our voice. We dive into our stories and work outward from there. Every student buzzed with excitement, throwing out ideas, each suggestion a stepping stone building a bridge toward their collective future. But the boy who had challenged them before stood once more, this time his expression softening. What if I want to share, but I'm not sure I know how? A wave of understanding rippled through Emily, and she recognized the need for guidance. That's what we're creating, a safe space where we can practice. We'll help each other craft our stories, find our truths, and share them when we're ready. A tremor of agreement resonated in the crowd. The fear that once threatened to hoist up barriers now seemed to fade, their shared commitment igniting a sense of community. But just as the collective energy exploded, an overwhelming wave of positivity and hope, a cold shadow emerged in the doorway. Emily turned, the sight of her father standing sentinel at the entrance thwarting the current of excitement sweeping through the gym. He stood arms crossed, his face a collage of confusion and inner conflict. The buzz around them dimmed as students glanced toward Emily. Whispers sifted through the air. Would he support her now? Her heart raced once again, but the connection around her fortified her spirit. Ralph stepped forward, sanguine and welcoming. Mr. Johnson, we're on the brink of something incredible here. Just look at the energy your daughter has sparked in this room. For a brief moment, Emily thought maybe, just maybe, that hardened exterior would thaw. But no. Her father's brows knitted tighter, a fortress against the change she yearned for him to accept. Emily, this is Dad. She interrupted, voice steady. This is our moment. Things are changing here. Can't you see that? Everyone is taking ownership of their stories. This could be what brings us together. He hesitated, caught off guard by her passion. What if it spirals out of control? What if this naive initiative only divides us more? We won't let it. We'll guide each other, she asserted emphatically. We want to make sure this works, but it starts with recognition, with empathy. That's how we build bridges. Students began to rally behind her, whispering words of support, their voices filling the air. Mr. Johnson, one of her peers spoke up, your daughter is leading a revolution here. It's not naive, it's bold. Emily saw the flickers of understanding shifting in her father's eyes, the cracks beginning to spread through his stoic demeanor as he surveyed the vibrant community forged around her. The bond ignited by their shared stories stood strong, ready to hold him too. Isn't that what you wanted, Dad? She asked, gripping the edge of a table, eyes burning with determination. Open hearts can create real change. As the crowd surged, energy electrifying the gym, he shifted uneasily. But are you ready for the consequences? Emily stepped forward, heart open and fearless. I can't guarantee the outcome, but I can promise this will be each other's rock. And together, we'll pave the way. The room erupted in applause, and as Ralph turned to face her father, the pride glimmering in his eyes was unmistakable. This movement is built on relationship, Mr. Johnson. A place where I once felt invisible now shines with light. And in that moment, Emily saw the softening of her father's expression, clay-like in the hands of unity and hope. The wall he built began to tremble under the weight of connection. As the light of understanding flickered in her father's gaze, Emily took a deep breath, embracing the unknown that lay ahead. She felt hungry for change, a fire alight in her chest. No longer clouded by fear, she surrendered to the exhilarating promise of their initiated revolution. This was just the beginning, and she could feel that profound awakening reverberate in her very soul, shifting her father's heart along with it. The air pulsed with possibility, ready to see how far their stories could catapult them, and Emily decided then and there that they would shape their narrative together. As they embraced the wave of action surging just beneath the surface, Emily knew this leap of faith was worth every risk. They would rise, not just as individuals, but as a family, as a community united in the truth of their stories together. They were unstoppable. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.